Hi, welcome to the Pole Shift News, guys. This is not just a YouTube channel. There's a dedicated website to the topic of the pole shift, and it really isn't just a pole shift either. I mean, there's a lot of things I'll briefly mention in this video. But before I do, guys, you know, we had nearly 3,000 people, as you can see, view yesterday's upload, and it would have been nice if at least one of those people would have just taken the time out and brought a coffee, you know, or made a small contribution to, you know, this ongoing research. It's a laboratory, it's a website, and it's dedicated to all these geo-anomalies that are taking place. If you've not visited the website, go and have a look. And, you know, check out the Learning Centre as well on that website, poleshiftnews.com. There's a lot of data there. You know, we're monitoring, and a lot of these things are live. We've got magnetometer data from various organisations. We've got live earthquakes, volcanic activities all over the world happening, and it's updated every day. We've got satellite, infrared, and other various weather-related live information on that website, as well as you know, the tracking of the magnetic North Pole, which we do here at this observatory. And if we can just keep up a little bit of support for the channel, you know, we can deliver what we're delivering now and a little bit more. You know, some of the projects which we're working on with regards to the, for instance, the cloud chamber. We brought online the magnetosphere sensor, and you know, over time we're gonna see the results of, you know, the data that we're collecting. And you know, again, I think it's worth at least a coffee. Just think, I know sometimes it's not easy for people to get out their cards and go onto PayPal and, you know, make a contribution. But you know, guys, just think of the effort which I go to teach myself programming, electronics, collecting the data, making sure that the equipment is recording the data. And that involves, as we've seen over the last week, a bit of regular maintenance, and you know, it's ongoing. I'm always putting, you know, a fair effort in to, you know, supplying this information for you guys. So you know, it's not just a YouTube channel; it's a research facility, albeit on a very small scale. But it doesn't matter, because I've got the skill sets, I've got the knowledge. And, you know, it doesn't matter whether I'm working in a NASA organisation or ESA or something else. You know, it's going to be a person like me at the end of the day that's going to conduct the work and deliver the results to you guys. And that's exactly what is being done, albeit, you know, we've not got the elaborate funding that these organisations have. And trust me, guys, if we had more funding, we would have a lot better observatory that covered much more than what it does right now. So, you know, just give it a little bit of thought. If you can support the channel and keep this going, you know, please do so. I want to just briefly talk about some of the implications and the importance of this topic of pole shift, because later on this year, I'm going to be proposing to a few universities in this country, in the UK, you know, an alternative lecture on this topic. It's going to be like an alternative climate view, and it's going to be focusing on, you know, the main driver being the magnetic North Pole, because not just the North Pole, but the poles on this planet, because I really believe that these are the major mechanics that play as the most fundamentals that change all the other things, such as jet streams, climate related to Arctic regions and the Arctic belts, and a lot of other things, you know, like what we're seeing with regards to this climate chaos. The other thing I wanted to do at some point is just show you the condition of this country at the moment, because I've noticed we live in quite an area where there's a lot of rivers and lakes, and a lot of these rivers are overflowing the banks as a result of all this rain. Now, we know why we're getting more rain, and we know why it's precipitating a lot more. I mean, if you're going to mix the polar jet streams with subtropical jet streams, then you're going to get precipitation. You know, this warm and cold air coming together is going to cause at some point precipitation, and I think that is one of the problems why we're getting a lot more of this wet weather over this part of the Earth. Another is cloud seeding, and a result of that would be a weakening magnetosphere as a result of the pole migration, and a low solar output, you know, to do with the fact that the sun's in a grand solar minimum. You know, the heliosphere will shrink, more cosmic rays will be inbound, and as a result of a weakened magnetosphere on Earth, we'll have more, again, probably this will compile, you know, 3 or 4-fold the effects of more cloud seeding. And this is going to continue in the short distance of the next few years to get worse and worse. It's going to change the way things take place over the Northern Hemisphere. Just for instance, if we take a look at the Northern Hemisphere right now, you can see the vast area of land and sea which is saturated in sub-zero temperatures at this point. Will be tomorrow in the 1st of April. And this late or longer lasting winter will play a role in the reduction of crops in the UK. It's going to shorten the cropping seasons. It's not guaranteed. We're going to have a fantastic summer, which is going to produce large yields of crops. I'm just talking in this country alone, but you can see that this covers more than one country over the Northern Hemisphere, and the problems for them are going to be the exact same, on top of what farmers are already having to deal with over the last, say, 10 years. It's going to put farmers out of business eventually. Some are putting off buying that new equipment because, you know, they're thinking, well, are we going to have the yields which is going to repay the loans for that equipment which we've taken out? And if not, then they're going to keep putting it off. But inevitably, you know, I've seen this before in businesses. You know, when you start cutting corners to stretch it out, it isn't long before the business goes collapse. And, you know, I think that will be a scenario for a lot of farmers in the western parts of this, you know, territory that we're looking at. On top of what's already happened in other countries where Monsanto's intervened with their genetically modified crops and the disasters that that's caused, you know, we are slowly gearing up for a major problem in the not too distant future. It just doesn't have to be solely related to climate, you know, because climate does have knock-on effects of other things. I always say, you know, the main part of planetary mechanics is going to be your magnetic poles. And the reason why I say that is simply, just look at Mars right now. No atmosphere, no water on its planet. On its surface, sorry. So, the worst case scenario is what we've witnessed happen to one of our neighbouring planets in our solar system already. That is the worst case scenario. But, you know, that doesn't mean there are, you know, situations which are not going to be very nice for us, you know, in the short foreseeable future. You're going to see crops rise in value. Wages are not going to rise in value, and that means the spending budget of the majority of people is going to reduce. And, you know, these are factors you need to take into consideration at this point now. You don't have to wait for the disaster to happen, because by then it's too late. And we've seen a result of these disasters, like tsunamis, when they destroy and kill thousands of people, leaving businesses and communities completely fragmented, destroyed. That is not the time to act. It's impossible, in fact, to act at that point in time. So, you know, maybe you want to consider you know, making whatever changes you need to make right now so that you can safeguard yourself from some of these things that could happen. You know, I just want to briefly say, you know, we are really at the forefront of this anomaly. I don't see or hear many other people talking about it at the same level as what we do, and I certainly don't see other scientists drawing the same conclusions to a common phenomena over the Northern Hemisphere. And I always say it doesn't make sense just to say or write it off as a coincidence that over the Northern Hemisphere we have a rotational axis, we have an Arctic climate, and we have the dipole, the magnetic pole. And if one of those important things should start migrating out of that region, then I don't think it's going to be long before we see the second one, which is the Arctic climate, following that magnetic pole. I think we have some evidence to support that that is what's taking place. And then, as a worser case scenario, the rotational axis shifting. We haven't seen that yet, but I wouldn't outrule that as a possibility. And if that does happen, the entire world will not look the same after a rotational axis shift. You know yourselves, guys, at the equator regions of this planet there is a bulge, and that is due to the centrifugal force stretching out over that region. If those oceans or that bulge shifts as a result of a rotational axis on this planet, it will change the continental looks in a dramatic way. And it is something that we cannot outrule simply because it is a coincidental process of what is there right now over the Northern Hemisphere. And we can't, in my view, afford to just wait to see if that's going to be the case. Because there are 7 billion people on this planet, and right now, less than 0.005% of those people are aware of this actually taking place right now. So, I'm hoping that you'll understand, that this is a very important topic. And I'm sure it's even going to catch some of these organisations out in the future with what is going to take place. And I'm absolutely sure it's going to catch these governments out completely. So, just bear that in mind. We're going to face a lot of changes as a result of this, which doesn't necessarily mean we have to wait for that pole to start to flip, because as it starts to weaken the magnetosphere, we're going to start seeing dramatic changes as a result of that. And we can do our best by recording some of the data with relation to those two things. In my view, we're covering the main aspects now of the magnetic pole shift. One is the tracking of the pole and its heading, and the other is the magnetosphere strength. The magneto in the Earth sets up the situation for both of these things, the magnetic poles and the magnetosphere, to exist in the first place. So if we're monitoring both of those things, we get an idea of what's going on in the core as well with regards to the magneto. And I'll just leave this video on this last thought for you guys so that you get some sort of idea as to the importance of this topic. On average, this Earth went through a reversal around 250,000 to 350,000 years. And then it stopped. This time, there is a 500,000 year gap on top of the 250,000 or 350,000 years. So it's 500,000 years, 500,000 years overdue. Why, as at this time, in the entire history of the recordings that we've got to date, has it taken so long for a reversal to happen? And what will be the implications of that? I think it's really important to understand this. I think, guys, over the South Atlantic area where the South Atlantic anomaly exists, I think we are already experiencing sputtering, which is a slow erosion of our atmosphere. And that is a result of a low magnetic field in that region. So, you know, we could be witnessing, I'm not trying to be fear-mongering or anything, we could be witnessing the early stages of what has taken place on a neighbouring planet in our solar system already. And if that is the case, then, you know, we need to do something. You know, just to say to ourselves, it's not an option that we can't do anything because this is on such a great scale, is not really the attitude of a survivor. What we need to do is think a little bit more positive and always have the opinion that something can be done. And, you know, over time, hopefully not the too distant future, you know, we'll discuss our options with regards to what we can do. I do have a small project which has been put on the back bench for some time, which could possibly deflect cosmic particles in a localized region, that is. It sets up a shield which ionizes the air, which is, you know, hopefully something that can deflect a majority of cosmic particles. I don't know whether it could be set up on a global scale, or, you know, how much energy it would require to set up an artificial magnetosphere for this planet, but, you know, I think on a small scale, I have got something sat on the bench which does do that. So, you know, that's probably a topic for a later day. So I'm going to leave it here, guys. Hopefully, you know, I've you know, strengthened the importance of this topic, the magnetic pole shift, and you know, maybe it'll encourage a few people to support the research that we do and keep things running. And hopefully, we can, in that way, we can keep people informed through the coming years. So I'm going to say what I usually do. There's a link down there, guys, and, you know, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Happy Easter holidays, and bye for now.